having me here today, and knowing that I'm kind of near the end of the day. One thing, being a neuropsychologist, I know very well is your brains are shutting down on me at this point. And so we need to do a quick activity just to try and get your brain working again. So you have a piece of paper in front of you, and it has a bunch of circles on it. Well, there's a really bad one. You have a bunch of circles. And so I'm going to do a quick little test to see your visual creativity processing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want to see how many of these circles you can transform into an image, a unique image. So maybe the first circle I'll turn into a happy face, and then the next circle maybe I'll turn it into a clock, maybe I'll make a pizza in my next one. So I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want to see how many circles you're able to use. So here we go. On your mark, get set, go. $30 seconds. $15 remaining. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And stop. Okay, so how many of you got at least 5 right? Put up your hand if you got at least 5, used at least 5 of your circles. Okay, how many people used at least 8 of your circles? You can keep your hands up. 10 of your circles?
Does making bubble letters with your name count?
Yes, that's a unique way of doing it. How about more than 12? More than 15? Ooh, more than 16? How many did you use?
15.
15, okay. And sir, how many did you use?
Well, they did not say how to do, so I did pretty much everything. It's squares and...
Oh, so you link them all together. Okay. Well, that's a unique perspective on that. It actually means nothing, but I just wanted to get your brains thinking. What we know through research and all that stuff is that our brains are really are built for learning. And often what happens is things get in the way that prevent us from learning kind of the typical way that most students go about learning. And the whole idea of technology these days is really this kind of tool that we can begin to use to kind of bypass a lot of the kind of the specific areas of weaknesses so that we can circumvent those weaknesses to be able to allow a child to continue on with learning. So for assistive technology, I've been working in the field of AT for probably the last 15 years. I've been to virtually every school board in Ontario, worked all the way across Canada in helping implement assistive technology. And my research has really focused in on trying to understand why does technology actually, this stuff actually not work for a lot of the students. And so my research over the last 5 years has really narrowed it down to identifying what are the cognitive profiles that really link onto the technology and why some students really benefit from the technology when used a certain way and other students it does not. So the idea of just recommending technology as a general thing we know is not very beneficial. We really have to customize the technology for the student. So, as I said earlier, what often happens when students have difficulties, something's kind of just getting in the way of them being able to do something that most of us can do quite easily. So here is an image. This is an image of something that you all probably knew by the time you were in kindergarten. However, I've distorted it in a way that's making it harder for you to quickly recognize this image. Now when I show this image in this distorted form, most kindergarten grade 1 students automatically know it, but I find adults have a harder time recognizing it. So any ideas what this image is? Yeah?
Cowboy on a horse.
Cowboy on a horse. Any other ideas?
I'd agree. Cowboy on a horse.
Okay. Does anybody not see the cowboy on the horse? Yeah. Be honest, it's fine. No? Okay. So if this was a class and I was kind of presented some of this information and said, okay class, what I want you to do is break up into groups, and I want you to, or maybe I'll say is, tonight's homework assignment is to go home and write me a paper on how this occupation has changed over the last 100 years. Now, because you're unable to process some basic information that I'm giving you, then you would not be able to do that assignment. You couldn't be able to complete it. So as an educator, what I have to do is I have to make sure that all my students are able to see this, or be able to have access to that same information. So, let me try this out here. I'm going to do a little scaffolding. I'm going to give you a model now. Give you a model of a guy on the horse. Now, does that help everybody? Can everybody now see it? No? No? Okay.
Out of the black spots, I'm supposed to see that?
Yeah, all the black spots. No? Okay, okay. I'll help a little bit more. I'm going to now, I'm going to outline it for you. Maybe this will help it.
Maybe your other guy's not wearing it.
Yes. Does everybody see it now? So the idea of technology, kind of this idea of assistive technology, is this thing to help make sure that everybody has access to the same information, to the same curriculum, so that so all students can progress in the same manner, learning. Because we know what often happens with students who have difficulties in an area is we give them an assignment, a task, and the challenge, often the challenge of that task is too great. So I might have a student who I give them a reading assignment, I give them a worksheet, and they have to read that worksheet to be able to do the, let's say, the science experiment in class. Now, because they are unable to read, and I give them this worksheet, just the simple idea of this task, the level of challenge increases to too great, and they can't decode the individual words. So therefore, they don't understand the meaning of what it is. And if that challenge stays too great, if the level of challenge stays too high for too long, then often what we create is very anxious learners. And when we create anxious learners, students begin to withdraw and not want to be able to do the assignments and decide to, and we lose motivation. On the other hand, the other way that we work with a lot of students is we water down the curriculum. So instead of engaging them at their intellectual level, we engage them more at their basic reading or writing or numeracy level. So we give them worksheets at a much lower grade level. A lot of the students I work with in grades 7, 8, and 9 are doing a lot of grade 1, 2, and 3 worksheets. And let me tell you, for a lot of these students, they only can read about Bob chasing the ball so many times until they decide reading is a really boring thing. So if we don't increase the level of challenge over time, and we keep it very low, then students begin to get bored, and they also disengage. And that's why for a lot of students who have learning difficulties, about around grade 9, we see the dropout rate increasing significantly with these individuals, because either they are too anxious, they find the level of work is just way too hard, or they have become very bored readers. Either way, they have become disengaged from the education system. To keep students engaged, to keep students motivated, then we have to give them the right zone, the right level of challenge. So we want to give them meaningful tasks, the same kind of things that their peers are doing, but we have to also accommodate them. We also have to give them the right type of technology and tools to be able to support them so that they are able to do that work more independently. I'm just going to skip this. So there's a bunch of ways we can do this. We can do this through universal design for learning. We can do this in a response to intervention approach or differentiated instruction. All of these things really can support the student. But the main thing that we really do with students who have learning difficulties is we really look at the evidence-based interventions. What can we do? So we either can remediate, where we actually build up natural skills of that student by actually teaching them how to read or write or do numeracy independently, and we can do that through direct instruction. Or the other thing we can do is look at the compensatory strategies, things to circumvent that weakness, using assistive technology, learning strategies, peer tutoring, and other types of accommodations in the classroom that allow them to just work around those areas of weaknesses.
Can you explain what you mean by direct instruction?
Direct instruction, that's where we systematically teach specific skills. So if a student can't read, we teach them like the phonemes, teach them how to decode words independently, and it's a lot of repetition in that to really build on those initial skills. So it's systematic, sequential intensity of instruction that really builds up. And we have lots of evidence at this point how to go about teaching reading and writing. We really broke the code in about 2000 of how to do that effectively. But again, it still takes a lot of time. And so for a lot of students who have challenges in these areas, we always continue to look at remediation, but as they get older, often the compensatory pieces really become become an important piece. The other thing we always look at is student frustration, so we're always looking at that level of challenge. If the student is beginning to disengage from the work because they're finding it too challenged, if even the remediation is not supporting them enough, then often we also bring the compensatory stuff. So even with students who are as young as grade 1, I've worked a lot in developing technology tools for them to be able to allow them to stay engaged within the work, so that they find that the school work is fun and meaningful and that they're enjoying the process of literacy. So what is assistive technology? Well, assistive technology can be really anything. It can be anything from a highlighter to a computer with thousands of dollars worth of software on it. It's any technology that allows me to utilize my natural strengths to overcome my areas of weaknesses. And in the mid-90s, it really was kind of coined the idea of a cognitive prosthesis. So one of the assistive technologies that we know very well is like the wheelchair. So for a person who's unable to use their legs, before the wheelchair was developed, if they wanted to get from point A to point B, they could either use their arms to pull themselves across the ground to get from point A to point B, something very effortful, or they relied on someone else to carry them from point A to point B. When the wheelchair was developed, suddenly they had a tool, a technology tool that allowed them to independently move from point A to point B much more effectively. Same thing with a lot of the technology I'm going to show you. A lot of these tools are developed to take something that is very effortful for a student and make it easier, and also allow them to have more independence. So the real power of assistive technology is to move students to a point where they become much more as independent learners. So we want to move these students to become independent learners. And when I talk about assistive technology, I'm not talking about programs such as like Kurzweil and Dragon and WordQ. Has anybody heard of Kurzweil before? And Dragon, Read and Write Gold? Okay, a bunch of this. So I'm not talking about those programs, because those are programs. And Microsoft Word is also a program. Has anybody heard of Microsoft Word? Yeah, okay, that's good. So Microsoft Word's a program, but it's made up of a lot of individual tools. It has like a formatting tool in it, it has a text field editing tool, it has a zoom tool, it has a spell check tool, has a print tool, has made up of lots of different tools. The same things with our assistive technology programs, like a Kurzweil. It's made up of a lot of different tools. It has an OCR tool, a text-to-speech tool, a study skill tool, a document tool. It's made up of a lot of different tools. And often what we do is when we're working with students, we think that a program is really going to be the answer for a student. But in fact, it's not the program that's the answer, it's the individual tools that rely in the program. And often what I find in Ontario at this point is we teach programs to students. We have companies come in to work with our students, and we teach them to use all these different features within a program. And Kurzweil has about 120 different features or different tools in it. What we know through the research at this point is probably out of Kurzweil, they'll probably only need to know 3 of those tools to actually do the work, to actually circumvent their area of weakness. What happens is we overload the students in teaching them this huge program that they never learn how to effectively use the specific tool within that program to be able to bypass their area of weakness. And so that's why we see a real abandoning of assistive technology. Students don't like to use it because they actually don't know how to effectively use it to do tonight's homework. And that's often because we're teaching them way too much about the program and not specifically about the tool and the way that they go about learning. So online, you can go to my website, www.learndifferent.ca. You can write that down, and the password is ATLD. And the work booklet that goes along with this workshop, you can download at that point. Originally I thought there was 45 people coming here, so I didn't want to photocopy all the pages, about a 40-page work booklet. But the work booklet is designed to help you to start to move through the process of finding the right assistive technology tool to support the student. And the first thing we have to do when we're thinking about finding the right tools, we have to think about the set framework. We have to think about the student, the environment they're in, the tasks that they have to do, and then we can think about the tool. And when I talk about the student, really what I'm talking about is understanding their learning profile. How do they go about learning? What are their strengths and what are their challenges. What are the things that they're good at and the things that are challenging for them? We have to understand what those areas are. And particularly, we have to think of their areas of challenge when it relates to academics. And we can't just say a student is a bad reader. We have to say which part of reading are they having the most difficulty in that's really impacting them. Because often we say a student can't read, but that doesn't really tell me anything about the way they go about reading. They might be fantastic comprehenders. They might really understand what they read, but their fluency, the speed that they read is so slow that they just can't get through the work at the very end of the day. On the other hand, the student might be a fantastic reader. They can read individual words really well and read them really fast. But because of their vocabulary, they don't understand what they read. So we really have to understand what is the specific academic core weakness that that student has so that we can then start singling in on that area to find the right tool to support that student. So we have to know who the student is, and we have to know more than just the fact that they can't read or can't write. We have to know the specific academic skill that is preventing them from being able to do kind of more that global skill. The next thing we have to do is know what environment are they going to be doing their working in. Several years ago, I was working with a student, and he was in grade 7, and we got him a C grant, a Special Equipment Amount Grant, which is in Ontario, a grant the public education system can apply for a student to get them about $6,000 worth of hardware, software combination. So we worked really hard to get this student this wonderful technology, and we were so happy when we got it. So when the C grant arrived at the new computer and technology, they started to set it up. However, one of the problems is the school board that the student was in was really worried about the safety of the equipment. They didn't want to buy him a laptop because they didn't want him to drop the laptop and break it. So they bought him a desktop computer. So this grade 7 student sits down, opens up the computer, we set it all up, and we realize a fundamental mistake that has gone on. Do you know what the problem is when you buy a desktop computer for a grade 7 student? You can't take it with them. They're on rotary. They move through multiple classes. So the great brains of that school, what they decided to do was buy him a desk about this size with wheels on it, and they set up the computer on that desk, and he was supposed to push the computer from class to class to class. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any grade 7 student who's going to commit social suicide by pushing his computer down the hallway. So let's just say this wonderful $6,000 investment sat in his literacy room and got used for about 30% of the day. So not very effective. So we really have to know the environment that the student is in to be able to make sure that we recommend the right type of technology to support that student. Because these days students are doing their homework in the libraries, at home, in different places in school, down at the coffee shop. They're doing it all over the place. So we really have to understand where the students are doing that thing. The other thing we have to really do is know what is the specific thing that's getting in the student's way. What is that task, what that specific academic skill that's getting in the way from them to be able to do what we want them to do. Is it the fact that they can't decode the work? Is it the fact that they can't spell, so therefore they can't write their ideas down? What is the specific thing that's getting in the way? And only then can we recommend the right tool to support that student. And the last check I did, there's about 2,863 different assistive technology programs on the market these days. About 2,683 of my last check programs on the market these days. So just again, going back to programs, it's not very helpful. So what I've done is I've kind of, on the work booklet, you'll find that the first page is kind of a worksheet to kind of move you through the process of identifying the student, the environmental tasks, what tool, who's going to train the student, how we're going to monitor. And then it's going to provide you with the 6 domains of that assistive technology can support students in the area of oral language, reading, writing, note-taking, organization, and math. So those are the 6 domains that we can support students in. What you'll also find in the work booklet is there's 3 distinct sections. The first one is going to be the chart that really guides you to find the right tool. Then you're going to have the tool list that's going to describe what that assistive technology tool is. And then you're going to have a list of my favorite assistive technology programs that I've reviewed. And the way that this works is when you sit down with a child, you start off with the assistive technology chart, and you identify the core domain that the student's having difficulties in. So it might be in the area of reading. And we go, okay, what's the specific area? Well, the student might have difficulties with decoding. Well, what are the assistive technology programs that help me with decoding? Well, one of these assistive technology programs that help me with decoding is text-to-speech software. What's text-to-speech software? That's when I pull up my assistive technology tool list. And I can go, text-to-speech is any synthesized voice that's able to convert text on a computer screen into audible speech. Well, that's really cool. I wonder where I could get one of those. That's when I go from the program, the tool list to the program list. And I can see, oh, here's Read Please. Read Please is a text-to-speech, is a program that has a text-to-speech tool built into it. And in fact, it's a free text-to-speech program, so why don't I go ahead and download that? And that's going to help me circumvent that area of decoding or reading individual words. And so now I don't have to go out and buy a $1,400 Kurzweil program. I can simply go and get a nice free program that does the essential thing that the $1,400 Kurzweil program does, just at a much better price.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
My daughter's in grade 11 and she has a learning disability in the broad area of language.
Mm-hmm.
So she's taken all academic because she plans on going to the university, and I'm trying to encourage her to do what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
So she's taking Macbeth.
Mm-hmm.
She has Kurzweil. Have you ever listened to Macbeth on Kurzweil? It doesn't read it properly, and it keeps stopping because Macbeth isn't the proper English language. Is there a such program out there that can read Macbeth to her? Because she can't read fast enough to keep up with academic class.
Mm-hmm.
But she wants to do it at home. She does a lot of the questions at home, but I can't find, except on YouTube, which is firewall protected on her board-issued laptop, so she can only use it at home. But YouTube, there's actually a kid on there reading the novel. So at home she can do it, but at school, for 40 minutes, the length of the class, she sits there and does nothing, and has to do 2 hours of homework at home.
Yeah.
Contact CNIB.
Call
The Canadian National Institute for the Blind.
And they'll have Macbeth on CD.
Oh!
Yeah, so then you can just get it on CD. So you're right, Shakespeare is one of those things. Old English, our technology doesn't read it because we don't have an Old English voice. We have modern English voice, but we don't have Old English voices.
Her teacher can also override the firewall for YouTube.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have done that,
Okay.
but my 17-year-old very pushy daughter did check out other things on YouTube, and that shows up on the laptop, so they come on YouTube, and that was her fault.
CNIB.
also get
And they probably won't even charge you.
Yeah.
Oh, I never even...
And you can also...
The library also.
And the library has all
Yeah,
the books on CDs at this point.
Yes.
So a lot of the classics, we just go... And the important thing is she can't just simply listen to it. She actually has to have the book open in front of her and follow along. So there's something called bimodal reading that we know with students who have learning difficulties that they have to go through. They have to see and hear the words simultaneously to actually encode that information. So it's not good enough just to listen.
No, and she did that with YouTube. She would fall, and she could pause it.
Yeah,
and
perfect, yeah.
Because I had to read them ahead of time, so when she had questions, and I went to the learning center and I said, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, so that's the way to do it. Yeah, you just... Mold technology. Yeah.
You mentioned the $6,000. What do the students usually get for that?
Well, that's when they buy them like a computer and then fill it up with tons and tons of software. That's usually not necessary. So
And
there's all
disable the hard
dragons.
drive.
Yeah. It really depends on what school board you're with, what is the identification of the student, what is the recommendation from the psychologist in terms of the supports that they need. So it really varies from individual to individual. And so you really have to talk with your local school board to figure out what their program or approach is. And CA grants are not, like, personally I'm not a very big believer in CA grants. I think some school boards have done a better job at rolling out assistive technology by basically putting on every single computer there is in their whole school board, and then having mobile laptop carts that they can lend laptops out to individuals. Or even better yet, bring your own device and then have it network, hook it, and have the software installed on their own devices. So different boards are doing different approaches at this point. Yeah.
Do all students have a problem taking their laptops home at the end of the day? Like with our board, there's something like a $10,000 waiver that if anything happens.
Yeah, they all have to. Yeah, every school board across Ontario will have a waiver that you have to sign that show that you're.
But there are really limits for parents who can't afford that. It
Well,
means
all-
the child can't take the computer home to do work.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm a big believer in the netbook. So it's like a $300 laptop that does everything that you need. And then what I do with a lot of parents is I work with the school to be able to get the school to, the parents release the laptop to the school, so the school can use the student's laptop, and the parents provide a $300 computer, and then the school will load all the software onto that personal computer. And so we kind of work out an agreement that way
Why
if
get it
the
in the
waiver.
first place then?
Pardon?
Why get the laptop in the first place if you're gonna
Because a
release
lot
it
of
to the school?
because there's a lot of barriers around like the waivers and that for schools releasing the technology, like the laptop technology.
But then, unfortunately, this won't be able to take discs, they won't be able to,
I mean, discs are obsolete, so we don't have to worry about discs. We're all into flashcards and stuff like that. But this, honestly, a $300 netbook is the main technology that I recommend to parents at this point, because it does everything you need. You don't need a big heavy laptop. If the laptop breaks, you're down to $800 or $2,000 down the drain, where this is $300 and it literally does everything we need it to do. So the netbook technology has really matured, and it's much better than iPads and all that kind of stuff. That's not mature technology yet, but the netbook is a really nice mature technology.
So,
Yeah, we'll do one more thing and then we'll move on.
sorry, sometimes my son uses an iPod with Dragon Speak that he accesses wirelessly, and it was like minimal because his is reading and decoding.
Yeah, these were
specifically.
kids that had a little more intense things going on though, and they, with sight and all different kinds of things, so the fact that they couldn't do their homework at home
Yeah,
was an issue.
yeah.
Well,
But every school board should allow, like some schools still say you can't take the technology home, but it is now, it has been established that the computers can go home, but the parents have to sign a waiver showing that their insurance company would cover the machine if it was to be damaged. That's one thing I have. That's the last piece that's in. But let's get into the actual technology so we can actually see this stuff and play with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is reading. And I'm going to call on you to kind of help us start going. I'm going to put up a wonderful Mr. Muggs passage. Grade 2 reader. Or do you feel okay reading it out loud?
I'm good with that.
Okay, excellent. So if you can just take it from where it says in you go and read out loud, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I can't read that.
It's really easy. It says in.
You go, Jan, in you go.
I think that's the rest of you.
Go see Grandma,
Grandma.
and Grandpa.
Excellent.
Come on.
Yeah.
Here's the apartment.
Excellent. You can stop there. Thank you.
Look up.
Now, for students who have dyslexia or a reading disability, this is not how they actually see the page. However, that's kind of how they sound, because for them, they don't see words on the page, they see letters. All letters have to be translated into sounds. Sounds have to be blended together to get words. And then they have to hold the meaning of that word in their head as they go and try and figure out what the next word is. And often what happens is they spend so much time trying to decode each and every single word that by the time they get to the end of the paragraph, they don't have a clue what they just read. So they have to go back and reread the same paragraph over and over and over again, trying to pull out the meaning out of that paragraph. So decoding at the word level is one of the areas that we see a lot of students who have reading difficulties hitting. Actually, about 80% of students who have learning disabilities have a word-based reading is one of the primary areas of weakness. So the technology that really is built to be able to do this, and we've had this for the last 40 years at this point, is text-to-speech software. The idea is instead of having the student use their eyes to read the passage, they can simply use their ears to read the passage, to be able to hear it. And let me show you kind of one of the key programs out there. This is Kurzweil 3000. It's kind of it's the Cadillac of text-to-speech programs. So I have a passage here, and if I needed to have it read back, I just simply click where I want to have the read and hit the read button.
Time travel isn't something only for the future. You've already time traveled on your son.
And it just simply changes the text into audible speech. Now, for a lot of students who first get this, I find what they do is they sit down in their easy chairs, they pull up a nice can of Coke, set this baby to read to them at 300 words a minute, and hit the read button.
Sure, there's a bit of time travel aren't as exciting as, for example, traveling into the future to meet one's grandchildren. But the same principle applies. Time is relative. That principle just means that different conditions cause time to pass it.
And what used to take them like 6 days to read, the computer reads them in 30 minutes, and they're like, boom, I am cured, thank you, I'm going out to play. So they get really excited by this technology because, wow, it reads to me so fast. I can get through my homework really, really quickly. Of course, then you ask them any comprehension questions about what they just heard, and boom, there's nothing happening there. So my PhD research showed that we actually have to slow this baby down to 120 to 140 words a minute for comprehension for most students with reading disabilities to start to increase. So we have to present it at a much slower speed. The other thing is we have to have good voices. Voice quality is really good. It was really important. Tell me if you would like to sit and listen to this voice read to you all the time.
Time doesn't tick by everywhere at a constant speed. Imagine, for instance, 2 identical.
So also my research really showed is voice quality is really important. You have to have high quality text-to-speech voices. And one of the things that really drives me nuts in Ontario is Microsoft Mary is the default voice that reads to most students. And it is a very low quality text-to-speech voice. So we have to go in and actually increase the voice quality. We have to pull up really good voices. And in fact, for $25 these days, you can buy the top-of-the-line voice from AT&T, either AT&T Crystal or AT&T Paul. There's these high-quality voices that can read out loud, and they sound very human-like. So more human-like the voice sounds, the better a student's comprehension is. When you use a poor quality voice, it actually takes your brains 3 times longer to process what we just heard. And when the computer is reading at a continuous speed out loud to you, and your brain is taking 3 times longer to process each individual word, then you're missing a lot of content as you go through. So again, students get fooled into thinking that just because the computer is reading out loud to them, they're understanding. So we really have to look at speed, and we really have to look at voice quality as 2 important things. But Currents World 3000 is not the end-all, because as I said, there's free stuff. So one of my favorite programs out there right now that I recommend all the time is the free Natural Reader. So I can go online, and you can go online either on your Mac or onto your PC, and you can download the Natural Reader, which is a free text-to-speech program, and it just simply floats like this little window up here. And no matter what text I come to on the computer screen, so I'm just going to go to the internet for a second to pull up some nice text, I can simply just highlight that text and ask the computer to read that back to me.
The team within our Google X group started Project Glass to build this kind of technology.
And so thank you. So it starts to simply read back to you. Now, the Natural Reader comes with a moderately good text-to-speech voice, so for $25, you can have this program be able to read at a high-quality voice. So instead of spending $1,400, you can spend $25 and get something that does the essential thing that Kurzweil does for you, which is a huge improvement in this day and age. Yeah.
Can you tell me what's the quintessential characteristic of good quality voice and a bad one?
The biggest thing is listening to how human-like does it sound. So more and more human-like, the better. There's something called prosody. That's the tone, the intonation within our voices. Low-quality voices don't simulate prosody. Moderate ones simulated a bit. Really good quality voices have lots of prosody in them. And what we know is prosody actually communicates about 40% of the information that we need to be able to recognize and understand individual words and sentences. So more prosody, the better the voice is going to be. And the AT&T voices and the Crystal voices are really good. There's a on my handout, you'll find when I talk about voices, there's a website called Nextup, N-E-X-T-U-P, which sells individual voices. And AT&T is like the first voice that comes up on their website because it is the best voice.
Yeah, but when you read to a child or to anybody, or if you read quietly to yourself, you put emphasis on certain words, you raise and lower your voice. You don't get any of that here, though.
Well, the newer voices are doing a lot better of that. So they're able to reproduce about 82% of the prosthetic cues that a natural person's able to do. So they examine paragraphs, they look for key words, punctuation markers, so they're actually developing these prosthetic cues and sticking it into the voice stream so that you're actually getting a lot more of that. So it's getting better. It's not perfect yet. It's only 82%, but we're getting there. And in 5 years from now, probably the next generation of voices is going to really have all those key pieces involved. But you're right. Humans do all kinds of cool things. and the technology is just slowly catching up. So any voice made after 2005 is much better than anything made before 2005. Yeah?
The question that I have is the students will listen to this voice and they will read along with the text?
Yeah, they can
How
follow
do you
along.
ensure they read along?
Well, that's where the highlighting of the window, so that when the words are highlighted, you tell them that they have to follow along. They have to just keep looking. Now, they don't have to read those words, they just need to be looking at those words. So there's something called dual code that our brains are, when we see the word and hear the word simultaneously, it's allowing for better recognition of that individual word. And so what we know through the literature is that's important. So we don't want a student to be listening and then you can clearly see that they're like staring off into space. The idea is for them to be at least staring at the computer screen, and if the word's being highlighted, then naturally their focus of attention is going to be pulled to that word. So that's the important thing.
And just to follow that, if they were to actually read it and repeat it, would that help the comprehension?
If they're actually reading the word, if they're physically trying to figure out what the word is as the computer is saying, if they're reading it out loud, it will inhibit because they're going to actually read the word at a slower rate than they're actually hearing it. Now for natural readers, what we know is text-to-speech at a slow speed inhibits their comprehension because they're actually able to read faster than what the computer is reading at. And so they're actually reading all the words ahead of what they're hearing, and that inhibits their comprehension. But we find with the reading disabled population, as long as they're staring at the words and hearing the words, then that's enough to be able to really increase it. But the technology gets better these days because now what I can do is I don't have to even worry about having my computer with me. I can have my smartphone. And with my smartphone, I can go up to any text and take a picture of that text. It will pull that text up on my phone and it will be able to read out loud to me. In fact, the technology is getting better where several years ago I was in Spain and I got trapped at a train station. I was on one side, there was a desk, a person, and my bag was on the other side. And it was 11 o'clock at night. I spoke English, didn't speak Spanish. The guy in the train station spoke Spanish, didn't speak English, and gave me a form that I had to fill out before he would give me my bag. So I took a picture of that form, came up on here, translated from Spanish into English. I could have had it read it out loud to me. Then I typed out a response, translated my response from English back into Spanish, and actually had my phone read out loud to him what I wrote, and then I got my bag back. So the technology is coming to a point where the mobile stuff, it has advanced so much where it's becoming very, very wonderful. On the iPad, we have a new program called iWordQ. And it is a fantastic reading tool. It's actually the most advanced text-to-speech program we have today. Because what it's able to do is when it reads back to the student, not only does it control for a high-quality voice, not only does it control for the reading speed, but it does one further step. It has built into it the ability to segment phrases into clausal chunks. So one thing that we know that proficient readers should do, as they're reading a sentence, when they come to the end of a piece of meaning within that sentence, it might not be the end of the sentence, it might be halfway through the sentence. When they come to the end of a piece of meaning in the sentence, they actually take a little bit of break as they move on to the next piece of meaning. Our programs right now don't do that. They start at the beginning of the sentence and they read at a continuous rate until they get to a period. So my doctoral research really showed that by putting these pauses in really increases comprehension. So this new program, iWordQ, will do that.
Reading mode. Accessed by tapping the document. With speech bubble icon. Text is displayed in a more visually pleasing manner. Designed to improve.
You can hear that it's putting in these micro pauses. Now, to a proficient reader, again, it sounds pretty choppy. But for those students who have reading difficulties in the area of decoding words, we find that this technology, again, increases comprehension. So we see, again, about 20% in their understanding when we put in these micro pauses as we go through. So again, it's just not enough just to show them the technology. We really have to teach or figure out how to customize the technology to support these types of learners. So the technology just keeps getting better and better and better. In terms of vocabulary, do you mind playing a quick game with me? Okay, so I'm going to put a sentence on the board, 2 sentences, and I just want you to add a 3rd sentence that kind of continues on the short story. So, the burning cigarette was careless discarded. The fire destroyed many acres of forest. What would be the next sentence?
I would say someone out there is responsible for this devastation.
Perfect, excellent. So we're just going to do it again. So the abnormal low amount of hydrocele was found. Spermatocord was quite dry.
I could continue if you could explain that sentence.
Exactly. And that's the problem. For some students, it's the vocabulary that's actually the area of a weakness for them. They don't understand what the individual words are. So they might be able to read the individual words, but they don't understand what those words are. The first area of technology we had was e-dictionaries. So the idea is if the student came across a word they didn't know, they could simply hit the definition button and it would pull up the definition for that student. However, what we learned really quickly is e-dictionaries didn't actually work very well because the student might open up a dictionary and they might start reading off this definition. They go, oh, what does this word mean? And they'd hit the definition window, and they'd start reading this definition. They go, oh, what does this word mean? Hit the definition window. What does this word mean? Hit the definition window. And suddenly they've opened up like 25 different definition windows, and they don't have a clue what any one of those words means. So e-dictionaries weren't actually working very well out there. So we needed to find a new kind of dictionary. The ones that we've actually come to use are we like as pictorial dictionaries. And Google Image is a wonderful one. So you can type in a word like translucent, and it'll pull up images to help represent that concept. So that's working out very well. Another big area that we've looked at is using what's called simplified English. So many web pages like Wikipedia, it renders kind of the description of the word in about a grade 8 level with lots of details. However, if you scroll down the left-hand side here, you can find where it says Simple English, and it will render you the same information at about a grade 4 level, and it has also given you just the main ideas. So now you can have 2 students in a classroom, one who reads proficiently and can just simply read the regular wiki page, and then another student who's having difficulties, and now they're going to get the same information, but it's provided to them in a more simplistic form. So that's another really good one. The other really cool one out there that we have now is QWiki. So why even read this stuff when you can actually have it presented to you in a PowerPoint presentation? So QWiki, I can type in any word I want, and it's going to render me a PowerPoint presentation with audio on that concept. So here's the one on transparency.
Relative optics, transparency is the physical property of allowing light to pass through the material without being scattered. On a macroscopic scale, the photons can be...
So it actually just creates a PowerPoint presentation for you and reads off the information. So now what we have is this wonderful way to actually use visual and auditory to actually help individuals to access the information. So the technology can just keep getting better and better and better and better. The same thing with a lot of the stuff on the internet. We can actually, or our iDevices, all this stuff is now portable. Comprehension, I'm just going to show you a quick comprehension one. Study tools is really important. So in programs like Kurzweil, again, you can have you have these things called study tools. So I can go through and highlight important bits of information. Oops, highlight too much there. Highlight important bits of information, and as I'm highlighting the information, what the computer will actually do for me is build point form notes in the background. So at the end, what I can do is ask the computer to extract those highlighted notes, and it will generate for me my point form notes. So now a student doesn't have to write out their notes, they can simply go about using weighted highlighting to be able to get access to that important information. The other thing they can do is write sticky notes. They can put sticky notes with questions that they might need to answer. So how do you
time?
And so as they're listening to the answers to, or as they're listening to the paragraphs, if they hear the answer to one of their questions, they can grab that sticky note, drop it over that paragraph, and so when they come back to do their homework that night, they're able to know that that's the paragraph that answers their specific question. Again, you don't need Kurzweil to do all this. All you need to do is have connection to the internet. So on the internet these days, you have a program, you have a web browser, so web browsers like Safari or Internet Explorer. A new one called Chrome by Google Chrome, allows you to add apps into it. So I can go in and add an app called Web Notes. And what this allows me to do now is on any web page I go to, so let me go to another web page. Let's do, let's go here. I can actually go in and highlight any information on that web page. So I can grab my virtual highlighter, highlight that information on the web page that I think is important, and then I can assign it to a topic that I might be studying. So I might assign it to my welcome topic. When I go to my web notes now, homepage, I can click onto whatever topic I'm researching, and when I click onto that topic, it's going to pull up all the things that I've highlighted or any post-it notes that I've added to that web page, and it's going to show me that information, and now I can print off that information. So now the whole internet becomes this wonderful resource that I can actually interact with it to be able to identify important bits of information. So the web now, and again, this is free. The other thing that WebNotes Chrome allows me to do is add in a free text-to-speech tool. So I can now, anything on the internet, I can use iSpeak. Oh, where's iSpeak?
Be seen through it. The image you can see through a transparent object is similar to the image
and we'll read it out loud. So anything on the internet, now I can have the computer read to me. And because this is called cloud-based computing, this means that no matter what computer I go to, as long as it's hooked up to the internet, I can go log onto my account and I will get all my all these cool programs on that computer. So now I can use the computer at the back of the classroom, I can use the computer in the library, I can use my computer at home. And as long as I can log onto the internet with that computer, I can access my notes, I can have the computer read any of my web page to me, and I can do all that for free. So the technology is getting much more integrated into our regular products that we see every single day. We don't have to go out and buy specialized programming. But again, just having the programs is not enough. Yeah?
Sorry, that when you use it from any location, so this is on the iCloud, where do you log in? How do you log in with your email?
So yeah, you just log in with your Google account. So I log into my Google account, and then it automatically opens all my programs
Google
that I have.
account, not the Gmail account.
Yeah, Gmail account, Google account, same thing. Yeah, yeah. As long as you have a Gmail account, then you also have a Google account at this point. Yeah, so you can just log in. The other big thing, but well, again, we know is we still have to teach students. Just by giving this technology doesn't teach the student how to do stuff, such as highlighting. So in 2002, I did a study where I gave students passages, and I taught them how to use virtual highlighters, and I told them to highlight the main idea within the passage. Some students highlighted virtually everything. Other students randomly highlighted stuff. Others did a little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the middle, a little bit at the end. Other students began to highlight and said, "This is stupid," and stopped highlighting. When we analyzed what they were able to highlight, they were lousy at identifying the main ideas within the passage. So again, we have to really teach students how to go about doing these types of things. And one of the learning skills or learning strategies that has been shown to be very effective, and especially been shown to be very effective when we integrate it with the technology, is SQ3R. Whenever a student sits down to read using the computer, the first thing they're going to do is survey. They have to understand generally what they're about to read. Either reading the headings, using QWiki, highlighting main headers in yellow, any bold or italicized words in greens, and looking at those words. We have to get them to think about what they're going to read. We then want them to identify any questions they need to have answered. Then when they read, they're going to read one paragraph at a time at a slower speed. And after they read each paragraph, we're going to simply have them highlight what they think is the main idea in blue, and any other supporting ideas in purple. At the very end, they're going to pull out all their notes and then review those notes. And we find when we start to teach students these strategies that their understanding increases over time.
Why did you spell purple?
And rehearse.
Oh, quick typos. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought it was intentional.
Nope, that was just typos.
Okay.
And so what we know is this technology just keeps increasing. And so we have to really teach these strategies. So I can teach a student how to use the program within about 5 minutes, but these strategies is what takes years for students to really learn how to use effectively. And you have to know what level, what age level they're at to tailor these strategies to meet those different age levels. Just going to skip over this area. The biggest thing is for a lot of students who have handwriting difficulties, so difficulties with printing, is we know that we have to get them onto using computers. If they have very poor, what's known graphomotor skills, what the research shows is the fastest way you can get your ideas down on paper, you create the better ideas. So if you're a faster typer than your handwriter, then you're going to create better ideas with typing than handwriting. And often for students who have bad graphomotor skills, they start off being faster handwriters, but as their typing really increases, then their typing outdoes their handwriting significantly. Most students who have graphomotor skills can only write up to about 10 words a minute or 12 words a minute, whereas a student learning how to type can go easy up to 60, 70 words a minute in terms of their speed. What we know in terms of teaching typing, it really takes about 15 minutes a day for about 2 years to really get students to what our goal is of 32 words a minute. And once students hit 32 words a minute with a 90% accuracy rate, that's enough speed that just by continuously typing, their speed will naturally drift up to about 50 words a minute, which is a speed you really have to have at the end of high school to be able to be an efficient typer to get your ideas down on paper. So it's just rote practice, unfortunately, for the first couple years. And we also know we can start teaching students how to type as early as grade 1, as long as we have smaller keyboards that actually match their hand size. In terms of writing, our writing technology has also really come a long way. But again, when we talk about writing, we really have to teach students how to break writing down into the fundamental stages, the fundamental components. And then we can bring technology in to help students at the fundamental areas. So, the first thing we want to do is we need to get students to know that, to get their ideas down on paper. Has anybody sat down with a student and they have a writing assignment, and they open up the writing assignment and they sit down in front of Microsoft Word and they stare at that white screen, and they sit and look at the white screen and they think about it, and they get up to leave, and then they come back, and you have to get them back into their chair, and they sit there for a little bit longer and they stare at it, and then they leave, or they set up their perfect MP3 or iTunes list of music to help them get ready to do the writing assignment. But in the end, nothing gets done. Because often what students feel is they automatically jump to the writing process. They have to just simply write the perfect response or the perfect essay or write the perfect project. But really, writing is a very complex task. And the first thing we want them to do is just simply get their ideas down on paper. The next thing we want to do is help them organize or order their ideas into a sequential and logical flow. Then we'll have them actually write. And when they're writing, they're not worrying about grammar or worrying about spelling. They're just simply turning these ideas into full sentences and paragraphs. Finally, when we get to the editing process, that's when we actually worry about all these other things: capitalization, punctuation, spelling. We're really focusing on those areas. And at the end, we review what we've written. And let me just take you through this, showing you how technology can map onto all these areas. So the first thing we're going to do is do thinking. And to do the thinking process, we're going to use a program called a graphic organizer. Has anybody heard of Inspiration or Smart Ideas? Okay, so Inspiration or Smart Ideas, this is a graphic organizer. I'm showing you Inspiration here. And what it does is allow students to get their ideas down in a kind of a free-flow way, and then once they get their ideas down, they can actually bring structures to it. So we're going to do a quick writing assignment here in the next 5 minutes. And our writing assignment is going to be on why do we love vacation? So as I said earlier, the first thing in the tower technique is we have to just first think. We have to get our ideas down. And we're going to do this through brainstorming. So let's just brainstorm as a group. What are some reasons we love vacation? And you have to mind, if I do some misspelling as I type really fast, just forget about those misspellings. We'll correct those later. So what are some reasons why we love vacation?
No work.
No work, exactly. No work. What else?
No school.
Pardon?
No school.
Yeah, no school. What else?
No schedule.
No schedule. What else?
Stay up late.
Yeah, stay up late. What else?
Family time?
Yeah, family time.
fun.
Yeah, have fun.
Freedom.
How about going new places, seeing new things, sun, beach, what else? Warm weather. Anything else? Okay. How about no chores? Don't have to cook. Yeah, there we go. Got lots of ideas now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to start organizing my ideas, and I'm going to use the four-corner technique to do that. So I'm going to grab sun and pull it up here. Now I'm going to grab my next idea. No schedule. Is no schedule like sun, or is it something different? Something different. And again, I'm not worrying about spelling. I'm teaching the student not to worry about spelling at this stage. We're going to do that later. I just want the student to get ideas down. Freedom. Is freedom like sun, like no schedule, or is it something different?
No schedule.
Yes, like no schedule. Going new places. Maybe we'll put that down there. Having fun. That's kind of going with no places, no school. Staying up late. The beach, I can go with sun. No work. Family time. That's kind of going with fun. Don't have to cook. That's kind of no schedule. Warm weather. No chores, saying new things. Okay, so quickly I'm able to start to organize my ideas. And then I can create headers. So maybe I'm going to use warm weather as one of my headers here. I'm going to use having fun as one of my headers. And maybe I'll call this relaxation as a header. Now I'm going to start to bring some structure to it. So now I'm moving from my thinking stage into my order stage. So warm weather, well, I can go to the beach and it has sun. I can have fun because I get to go to new places and see new things. I can have family time, relaxation. Well, there's no work, so I have no school and no schedule to worry about. I don't have to cook. I can stay up late at night. That gives me real freedom. And I don't, really, maybe what I'm going to do is actually go no chores, and then go to don't have to cook as an example of no chores. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to organize my ideas. So suddenly what I do is I'm bringing real structure to it. And I can start seeing if there's areas I have to maybe expand on, such as maybe now I'm going to say going swimming. Is another thing I'm going to talk about here. I can also add in visual representations to help me stay motivated. I'm going to put a picture of a sun in there. Go, where is it? No work. I'm going to put or no schedule. I'm going to put a clock there just to kind of represent that concept. And then what I can do is turn this into an outline form. I can take this from being my visual into an outline form and now send this out into Microsoft Word. So now in Microsoft Word, instead of sitting in front of oh, Microsoft Word, why didn't you do that? The file could not be found. Oh my goodness. It should have sent it over to Microsoft Word really quickly and brought up the, let's try this one more time. Transfer. So machine. Okay. Anyhow, it should have brought this up in Microsoft Word. So now the student, instead of just seeing a blank Word screen, they actually have a whole script of what they're going to write about, and now they can just turn those ideas into sentences. So suddenly, now instead of sitting in front of a white screen, they actually have all that information presented to them. So the technology really helps. Once I have all that information in front of me, then I can use another program to help me write out my sentences. Has anybody heard of word prediction software before, or like WordQ?
Yep.
So what WordQ is as I write, it's going to try and guess at what word I am writing. So now what I'm going to use is kind of so here's an example of WordQ. So this is
A. Demonstrate. Dentist. Demonstrate.
That's not the word. I want demonstration. Demonstration.
Determination. Demonstrating.
Demonstrating. It'll turn that to demonstration.
Demonstration.
Demonstration of how the computer. So long as I'm spelling the word phonetically, it's going to pull it up for me.
Computer.
Computer
will
guess
at
what
I am writing in.
And then it'll just help me out that way. So now as I'm going along, if I have a spelling weakness, the computer now is going to help me with my spelling difficulties. So it's going to pull in all these words. And the great thing about WordQ and other word prediction softwares is they'll work in any program. So if you're doing your emailing, or you're working on the web, or you're going somewhere else, as long as you can type, these type of software is able there to be able to support the student.
Is this an online one as well, or is this one you have to buy?
This is one that you actually have to buy. So none of our word prediction software do we have a free version yet. But out of all the word prediction at this point, the WordQ one is probably the most accurate or the best supporting.
And how pricey is that one?
It's about $200. So it's not
Actually,
that.
anybody in Ontario can get WordQ from the ministry. All the school boards and schools have a number. You just enter it in and you get it for free.
Yeah. So so that's a nice thing off the OSA pack.
So is that for students only?
For a student, it's bought by the boards and through the ministry. So.
Yeah, so it's really the best one. But once the student's done writing, one of the big problems that we had until about 8 months ago is the editing process. Because often students, they have grammatical errors, or in a word you can't find some of the words that they're trying to do, so they're still really reliant on someone else to do the editing process for them. Now we have a set of technologies called editing assistive technology, where it will actually analyze the sentence for a student. So this program is called Ginger, and it's really the best one on the market at this point. So it will analyze a sentence.
I like to read.
Well, that's not what I meant to say.
I like to read.
That's what I wanted to say, and I hit approve.
I like to ride a camel.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
6 people lost their lives in the accident.
And so what you can see is not only is it looking at spelling problems, but it's also looking at grammatical and homophone issues in that. It's actually analyzing sentence by sentence by sentence and giving you the feedback in it and putting it in. So this becomes a very powerful technology to do a lot of the editing along with its students. So instead of having to have a peer tutor or a teacher to do the first draft of the editing, the software is going to do this, and it's going to get them closer to it. Still, it's not going to make it perfect for them, but it's going to get them a lot closer to a final product.
Is that for free?
No, this one is about $100. The other neat thing that this program will do is it also gives you feedback. So especially for a teacher or a parent, it will provide you with feedback about how that student's doing. It'll tell you all the typical grammatical mistakes they're making, what types of spelling mistakes that they make on a regular basis, and pull that information up. What vocabulary are they misusing? Pull that information up for you. So you can, as a teacher or a parent, can actually develop interventions now to actually go in and teach those specific skills that they're making on a regular basis, the problems that they're actually having, and actually strengthen that skill. So not only is this technology acting as an assistive technology in helping the students be more independent in their editing, but it also provides you with valuable information that you can actually build your own remediation programs around to target specific areas of weakness. So again, the technology just keeps getting better and better and better. The last process of the editing of the writing is to actually do the review, and that's when we have the computer read back to us. So either using the free natural reader or using WordQ, we can just simply have the computer read out loud what we have written. And so the technology just keeps getting better and better and better these days. So the last thing I just wanted to talk about, and I'm going to stick this up, is just the next wave of where the technology is going, especially in the area of reading. It's called augmented, yeah.
So I just wanted to check the inspiration program that you showed at first.
Yeah.
Is that free online, or is that?
No, it's about $90 to buy. There are free graphic organizers, but the Inspiration one just is a really nice product, has a lot of really good features in it to support a student. It's really easy to use over some of the free stuff, but it's available. So the next place where we're going is what's called augmented reality. So the one that I'm working with right now and helping develop is the set of glasses you put on. So you wear this pair of glasses, it has a little piece of glass up here, and it has a camera built into it, it has a speaker and a microphone, and it hooks up to your cell phone. And as you're walking down the street, if a student's unable to read, they can look at any words like a sign or a menu, and they can just simply say, read. And it will take a picture of what they're staring at, analyze that picture to find out where the text is in that picture, and then read that text out loud to that individual. So the technology is getting to a point where we don't even have to have a computer with us. We can simply wear a pair of glasses that are really thin, and you can look them up online, they're called Google Glass, are really thin and are able to now have this ability to read out loud to students. So our technology is just advancing really, really fast. And so the end, I just wanted to kind of pull this in by talking about an individual that I worked with a couple of years ago and how it really transformed his life. This was a 64-year-old individual. He dropped out of school when he was in grade 8 because of his reading and writing difficulties. He was one of 6 students, and his whole life he was teased by his parents and his siblings about the fact that he could not read and write, and was very depressed. He was seeing a therapist at the time, and the therapist called me asking me to come and work with him because she said every therapy session he brings in all his mail, and we spend our whole session me reading it aloud to him and then me filling in forms. Is there any way that you could get some technology to read to him and help him with form filling? I'm like, okay, I could do that. So I sat down with him and I showed him the word prediction program, the word that kind of guesses at what he's writing. And it took me about 5 minutes to show him how to use that program. And then I just let him use it for about 30 minutes. And I came back 30 minutes later. And when I came back to him, he had just tears in his eyes. And he looked to me and he said, "This is the first thing I have ever written in my whole life." And it was a love letter to his girlfriend, kind of an apology letter at the time. And it's not perfect, but it was something that he was able to do for the first time. We taught him how to use the reading software so it's able to read his mail out loud to him and use this kind of stuff to fill out forms. And then after about 4 or 5 weeks of working with him, he went on his way. 2 years later, I got a call from the therapist and said, "I just want to give you an update on this individual." She goes, "One thing, he actually stopped coming to counseling because he started volunteering at a school." So he was on welfare at the time and just stayed at home most of the time because he was very depressed. And she said his depression really began to lift because he actually felt like he could do something. He could feel he was smart. He actually showed his parents some of the stuff that he was writing. And for the first time, his parents actually praised him about him being able to write. And so he started to feel good about himself. So he started volunteering at a school to teach students how to use this type of technology. She goes, in fact, he actually won a human rights court case against the city of Toronto. He did it all independently. He got the forms, he filled out the forms, he submitted those forms, and then he went and represented himself because his whole persona had changed. He went from the stupid individual to a person that he felt like he was able to do these other things that other people could do. He just needed to use some technology to help him out. So I think the power of the technology really begins to speak to when we find the right technology for that student based on the way that they learn, and we give them the right type of training, really it becomes a game changer and really can make that student feel like they too can do the same type of work that their peers are able to do. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
I'm from Thunder Bay. And my son is now in grade 5, but when he had to do grade 3 EQAO testing, they issued him, with a lot of fighting from me, a temporary IEP. Because his handwriting's awful. Nothing wrong with the small motor skills. The forming of his letters, proper spacing to separate words is just awful. Because all the kids do is use computers. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter in high school, and she doesn't type properly because they don't teach you how to type. So my 17-year-old daughter, when she's my age, she's going to have severe carpal tunnel syndrome or something because in school they never taught her how to type. She might type 10 times as fast as I do, because that's all she does. And my son, I work with all engineers. Every one of those engineers, every doctor I've seen with my daughter's IEP, they still have to write. So we, at least in my son's school, in the Thunder Bay Catholic Board, every child either has an iPad, iPod, or a laptop. Every single one of them. So, except for his Christmas list, he probably doesn't write half the time. So when I sit there and I, tell him about something I learned, now you write me something you learned, he can, but unless you're a parent that's had a child you have struggled with this, you can't read it. So what are we teaching our kids? They're going to just turn 10, he's in grade 5. So he's going to come into, he wants to be an engineer like his dad, right? He just idolizes his dad. He can't, because the engineers submit reports to me that I then type out, make all nice and pretty for them. If I can't read their handwriting, I can't type it.
Right.
So, and they're not doing nothing except for telling me, honey, don't worry about it. So then I take it to my SEAC, because I happen to be chair of it. I get told from the superintendent and the director of ed, don't worry about it. When he enters the workforce, all they'll do is have technology, some form, to type for him. So you're going to have engineers that are going to go and design these wonderful buildings, and I'm just using my knowledge of what I have to do in the workforce, with laptops strapped to their waist so that they can type it, they don't have to handwrite something. I think there is a place.
I do think that we always, as I said earlier, we still work on remediation, but we don't do it at the expense of creating real frustration with kids. So I think you need to get some basic printing done. You don't have to handwrite. You need some basic printing ability. But like when I look at the workforce, when I was working at sick kids and stuff like that, we never handwrote. Like everything was voice recognition. We just talked to computers. And it wrote down all of our reports for us. All of our charting was done digitally, so we all had to use computers to type stuff out. So I think there is an evolution going on through this system where the technology is becoming much more integrated into everything. And so therefore some skills, though you will need them once in a while, such as being able to print, are not skills that we need to ensure that they're very fast at. As long as they have some basic printing down, I think that's good. And then we can move on to trying to teach more of the essential pieces at this point, which is like the typing skills and being able to learn how to use the software. So yeah, I think we're just in this weird transition phase within our society where we still have both needing to do some handwriting and being able to access it in a digital form.
So with technology going the way it is, why don't they teach kids in high school how to type?
I
learned on a typewriter.
I personally think we should start teaching at grade 2. I think it should be an essential piece of the curriculum at this point because
then those kids could type 200 words a minute by the time they're
I know, that'd be fantastic. That'd be wonderful. Why not?
And accurate too. There's no spelling mistakes.
So I think these are some of the difficulties that we're running into is the education system is a big system, so it takes time to change it and adapt, and so it's just not there yet. So yeah.
Contact your local LDAO, that's your Learning Disability Association of Ontario. Most of the time they will offer free tutoring specifically for whatever skill that you're worried about. I did this with my son who was writing at a grade 1 level in grade 8. Kids with learning disabilities don't learn any faster than anybody else, and in those areas of weakness they take longer. So rather than stressing him out about it in a classroom environment with his peers, apply for the free tutoring through LDAO so he can take his time to learn at his own pace.
But he doesn't have a learning disability. My daughter does.
But if he's struggled with writing, you would still be able to access that tutoring.
Would he have to have an IEP?
No.
No?
No. You just pay for a membership, which is like $50 and it's forever, and you would be able to access those resources through the Learning Disability Association.
Yeah, is this a government funded?
No, it's an NGO. It's a not-for-profit organization. They have branches all over the place.
And do they associate themselves with the public education system?
Yes, they do.
So the teachers have access to that.
So, for example, the Learning Disability Association will usually have a representative that sits on your board's Special Education Advisory Committee.
But the different chapters throughout Ontario all waver in what types of services they have. Some places are very powerful, their chapters, and other places don't have the same level of support. So,
and just to follow that up, would the teacher have the ability to contact the LDA and say, I'd like to put a student into this, or is that actually the parents?
it's the parents.
It's the parents. You would offer it as a resource to the parents, and then they would do it.
And again, different chapters have different levels of support.
Yeah.
Okay, when my daughter was in grade 3, and that's this many years ago, 15, 18 years ago, they actually had a program. It was an experimental one. They took the class down to the computer lab. They showed them where to put their hands on the keyboard. It was all fun. And they had little verses they would say, and they would learn different ways to put their fingers up and down. And she is a fantastic.
Is it Mavis Bacon?
I don't know what it was, but all those kids enjoyed it because it was repetitious and it was like fun because there were little rhymes, like, you know, J, da, 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 and it was through the school board. But I don't know what happened to it.
There's a lot of free apps right now.
Oh, there's a lot of, Well, you just have to
What
watch
would you
the typing
recommend?
on the iPads because their screen typing is very different than tactile keyboard typing. So you always have to have a keyboard that hooks up to your iPad if you're going to do it that way. That's why, like Mavis Beacon, downloading onto your computer for like $20 is kind of the best solution in terms of typing. And then build rewards in, every 5 words a minute that they increase on, or every new set of letters they learn, small little rewards building into it to keep up with motivation. So again, building in stuff to them, because typing can be quite dry sometimes.
Is there an app or program that you would recommend?
Mavis Beacon is really good, and BBC Dance Map or Dance Pad is a great one for younger children. There's SpongeBob typing, which is fun. So there's a whole bunch of neat little fun things out there. But any of them, it's repetition. It's 15 minutes a day actually doing it to really build up the skill set. Yeah.
Having a 10-year-old boy, Nitro type is one that he's willing to use because it's racing.
Yeah, and a lot of them have video games built into it. So long as they spend about 10 minutes actually in the lesson component and then 5 minutes playing video games, that kind of balance seems to be really good with kids. But typing is a really important skill, and unfortunately it doesn't get the recognition. Even in the future, even with the advanced voice recognition software that's coming out, I still think typing is going to be an essential piece of our ability to interact with the technology that we have, especially when it comes down to writing. Because for most people, they don't have the ability to orally present in a very systematic and sequential way to be able to create nice formed sentences and paragraphs. That's a skill that takes a lot of practice. Yeah?
I guess I'm here with French, and I guess it's obviously one of the issues that we're facing, I guess, was discussed at our last conference a couple of weeks ago in Ottawa, was the issue of special needs, because it seems that there's a real gap there in terms of keeping kids with special needs in French programs.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, I've heard some really terrible solutions being offered. Well, just giving the French credit as long as you complete this computer course, but it was like,
yeah,
it was just give them the credit, but it's not actually going to, help them actually learn the language. But it just seems odd to me though that the kid speaks English perfectly well. So obviously there's no deficit in terms of actually being able to learn a language, but there's not really good solutions. And it looks like this is obviously something that needs to be explored, because obviously we've got the technology to be able to provide a child a way to hear the language the way it should be heard, and to actually be able to interpret at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing, like, we have a lot of, first, all this stuff can be done, you can have it in French, but another big advancement that we're doing in terms of literacy is built-in translation. So for a lot of ESL students or English second language students now, what we, an app that's not on the market yet, but is getting ready to be released, is they'll be able to read along, and if they
Access by tapping the document. Access by tapping the document.
Thank you. They can tap on the word, and it will bring above that word the word translated into their native language, but it will also read out loud in English or in French, whichever word that you have it set to, the word. So they actually hear the way that it's pronounced in the language that they're learning. So it translates for meaning into their native language, but pronounces into the language that they're learning. And the idea of this technology is they're only selecting words that they don't know to be able to aid them in. And we're finding that type of interaction is helping increase vocabulary and recognition within words. So that's it's amazing. It's going to come out in iWordQ. It's just not. It's going to be a function built in there, but it's just not quite ready.
Part of iWordQ.
Yeah, it's going to be part of iWordQ. Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to your one slide where you said writing strategies, 2 writing strategies. It said tower and COPS.
Oh, COPS, yeah.
I don't understand what those are.
Okay, so tower is the process we use to break. Where's tower? Right there it is. So tower is the process, is the steps that we go through when we write. So the first thing we want to do is think and brainstorm, just get ideas down. And you can do that through using a graphic organizer, you can use it on a tape recorder. The next thing you do is you go to order, you create structure in it. Sometimes we use template writing, so you actually have a template with like key questions or structure already provided to the students, so they just add in their information into those areas. Then they go and actually write out the sentences and paragraphs. Once that's all done, they actually edit the stuff. And the very last thing when they do is they either have someone read it to them or they have a computer read it out loud to them. Because what we know is when we hear our own work read out loud, either through a computer or through a person, we are able to identify 60% more errors within our work than if we were actually to read it for ourselves. And that's both with learning disabled or with typically developing students. Having something read out loud allows us to identify. LD students usually they can identify the areas. They might not know how to fix the problems, but they can at least identify when a sentence or a paragraph doesn't stack right. So that's kind of that's the order of sequence we teach them. And one thing that unfortunately doesn't happen a lot at school is we don't teach these kind of things very explicitly. It's kind of implicitly learnt. Most students kind of pick it up naturally through osmosis. But again, what we know with students who have learning difficulties, we really have to explicitly teach them these different types of strategies so that they know where they're at in the process. And they're not spending all their time worrying about spelling, because if I'm spending all my time worrying about spelling in the thinking stage, then the quality of my ideas actually decreases because all my cognitive load is going into worrying about spelling. So I have poor quality ideas. So that's why we reduce the load, reduce what will come later, and just focus in on specific steps.
Actually, teachers are starting to use different steps of writing.
Yeah.
And they do the rough copy, and then you write, and then you edit, and then they use the rubric to edit their own work. So
yeah,
and they're doing it in different ways. It's just not specifically teaching those steps 1, 2, 3.
And doing this in small groups, like if you put 3 students together, there's also, I think, a really good idea of teaching SL, and I did that with my language students. And the thinking process is brainstorming. Come up with all sorts of ideas, then they order it. And then the writing they can do individually.
And we know the peer tutoring literature really shows, those really small groups, as long as they're nicely constructed, are very powerful in helping with a lot of these different types of steps. Oh, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today.
Before everybody leaves, the people downstairs asked me to remind everyone to fill out the evaluation forms, because this is how they determine what their next year's conference will look like and the types of topics that they're going to address, so don't forget.
Yeah.